probably going to fight, and indeed some companies fight it to the death. I remember a computer company. Turned out darn good computers, and I tried to convince them to hire a staff writer. The president said no, he didn't need one, and he wrote the ads and the new products releases himself. He's now selling fuel oil. You need a good writer. You want someone that can work on everything that you need written, on press releases, new product releases. You need to have someone that can do instruction books for you, somebody that can do consumer specifications, consumer literature, dealer literature, rep literature, and so forth. You're going to be able to keep this fellow very busy. Now, where do you get a writer? Well, you advertise for him, and you try to find somebody, and by the way, there's an awful lot of writers available. Writers are starving to death. You want somebody who is good, who has a good sense of humor, who can make your literature sparkle. You want to have a good, quiet place to work, because a good deal of a writer's work is creative. And that means that you have to have peace and quiet so that you can think. Roughly 50% of the effort of writing a new products release should be put in thinking of some kind of a grabber in the way of a headline. Something that when the people see it in the magazine, that they will have to read the copy. Because if they don't get stopped by the headline, the chances are they're not going to read it, and everything that you've done is wasted.
You've hired a writer. You've given him a quiet place to work so that he can turn out copy that is simple, readable, and most importantly, copy that stresses benefits. Now the question is, what directions do you give him?
Avoid hyperbole. If you put in, this is the best, this is the biggest, your editors are only going to have to take it out with blue pencil. What you want to stress is the benefits to the consumer, the benefits to the buyer of the product. If you have some features, fine, explain them, but explain them in terms of why they bring about such and such a benefit to the user. If you let an engineer near this process, he is going to be writing features, 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 and is not going to be able to write about the benefits because he doesn't think that way. If you let a corporate executive anywhere near the process, you're going to have copy that says how great the corporation is and much ego inflating in the copy. You only have one opportunity to make a good first impression. So your copy must be very good. And it wants to sell the sizzle of the product, not the technical details. We don't want to know how to build a watch. We want to know what the prestige is of having a Rolex.
There is a big difference between benefits and features.
First thing a writer does on coming aboard is try to work up a list of the benefits of the product. It's going to be a little bit hard to get from everybody because not very many people are really that sure what the difference is between a feature and a benefit. Now let me explain. If you're selling a computer, and let's say you say that this computer has 512K of memory, is that a feature or a benefit? That is a feature. The benefit is that because this has 512K of memory, you're going to be able to run virtually every software program that's on the market on this computer. Now we may say that this is expandable. Fine, is that a benefit? No, that's a feature. Because this is expandable, we can put in different types of additional boards. We can add more memory to run even those programs that can't run on 512K, and there are a few of those. So that's the benefit. Now, once you have made a list of the benefits, what you do is make a copy of that, set it in type or type it up, and give copies of that to the salespeople, to the representatives, to your dealers, so that they will know what the benefits are and they can pass that information along to the ultimate consumer. There must be a benefit for every feature. Otherwise, what's the use of having the feature?
So to summarize, first, get marketing oriented. Then hire a professional writer. Give him or her a quiet place to work. Know the differences between features and benefits. And make sure your writer knows all the benefits of the product. Stress the benefits. Avoid hyperbole. And don't let engineers edit the copy.
Now, I've pulled a couple of examples of product releases so that I can show you what's right and what's wrong. Right on top of the list, this envelope was sent to me from a competitor with the name Crooked. Despite that, I still opened it, although my inclination was not to. Inside, I found a fuzzy photograph, which was really quite unusable, with shadows on everything. They made up for that by having copy on the page that looks like it was done with a worn-out mimeograph stencil. It's hard to read. There is not one single benefit mentioned in the copy. It's all features, and they did not double-space the copy so that there's room for me as editor to edit the copy. Here's what a release should look like. Double-spaced, everything nice. It even has the name and the phone number of somebody that I can call about the product, which the other one didn't bother to do. In order to get your press releases published, the first thing you need to have is a good picture, as clear as possible. Now, here's an example of a very good picture that was sent. Very beautifully taken, retouched, and so forth, and that's the way it should be.
So to make your releases slick and professional, always double or triple space your copy so that the editors have a place to edit. Always include a name and phone number at the top for the editors to call. Benefits, benefits, benefits. Emphasize, stress, push, benefits. Make sure your product photo is perfect, sharp, beautifully lighted, and if necessary, retouched. And the way to do this is to hire a professional product photographer. Provide a black and white print and a color photo as well. And here's another way for you to save money.
Now, many magazines are reluctant to use color in their new products because the color separations cost them money. And this is an opportunity for you because you need those color separations for your own literature. And if you get the magazine to have them made and say, I'll take care of the cost of them, don't worry about that, they'll cost you about half what it would if you were going to send out yourself to have those color separations made. So you can have them used in the magazine, then send the color separations to you, and you use them later. You save 50% of the money that it would cost you, and you get a color picture in the magazine. You win all the way, and so does the magazine. And it's nice when everybody benefits like that. You're all set to go now. You've got everything. What do you do next? You call the editor of the magazine, and you say, hello, Joe. I've got a new products release coming to you. If you have any questions about it at all, give me a call and let me know. I'll be glad to answer any questions at all. And then you thank him very much. You send off the products release, and about 3 days after you think that he must have it by now, you call him up again, and you say, hello, Joe, did you get my products release? What did you think? Is there anything that I can answer for you? Are the pictures okay? Now, I'd like to just have a hint as to when you think you're going to run it so that I can plan my marketing campaign. Oh, that's great. Now, one more thing. I wonder if you might consider running a new products review of this. Where could I send this so that we could get a products review? Should this be sent to you, or do you have a special writer that might be wanting to handle this? And also, let me know if there's any special pictures that we can do for the review that will help you out. And by then, you're all set for the next step and for the big money. You want to work with your reviewer as carefully as you can. You have two major benefits that you can accrue from this. Number one, the closer you work with the reviewer, the less chance there is that something negative is going to get into the review. And you'll be able to defuse these problems as they come up. You'll find that there are some reviewers who have the idea that they're working for Consumer Reports and are looking for bad things to say. So the more you're in touch with them, the less you're going to have a problem with that. Number two, presumably the editor has picked this editor because he is an expert in the particular field that your product is. Therefore, you have everything to gain and very little to lose in listening to him as far as any suggestions on improvements or changes in that product. And indeed, if you discuss this with him and say, look, we know you're an expert, please let us know of anything that you can think of that we could do to improve this product, to make it better, to make it easier to use, and he is going to feel like $1,000,000. He's going to feel great, and he's going to cooperate a lot, and you're not likely to get a negative review. So this is also important to you, because if you let your engineers do your new product development, you're going to have a great deal of difficulty and are going to suffer a slow death. If you let your customers and people like this reviewer who are experts tell you what your new product should be and tell the engineers which direction to go, then you're going to be successful. And if you've read any of the books on excellence that have been out recently, like In Search of Excellence, you know that this is the major recommendation that you get from these books. Listen to your customers as far as new products are concerned, and don't try to get them just out of the engineering laboratory.
So make friends with the reviewer and stay in touch and listen to any suggestions she or he may have. Next, we take up when to send out a release and how much planning should go beforehand.
What products can you really use in this process? Well, number one, of course, is a new product. You can also do a pretty good job with a change, if it's a major change in the product, or an improvement, a substantial improvement in the product. These are all good grist for the new product releases. You don't want to go about this haphazardly. You want to develop first an action plan that will take into consideration every step of the way. For instance, you have to plan when you are going to write your new product release. You have to plan every step of the illustrations, the photographs, when they're to be taken, the retouching and so forth. You have to plan the envelope, and many envelopes will have to be ordered up to 4, 8, 10 weeks ahead of when you need them. So it's important to have these plans with every step. When you're going to make the phone calls to the editors, when you're going to send the releases, when you are going to expect them into print, when you're going to do reprints, when you are going to have sales literature to back up this whole sales effort. And if you have a whole bunch of people writing in and saying, I saw your new products release, and almost all of those will have a reader service number to circle, you're going to have literature ready at the time that that magazine comes out. And that literature isn't going to be ready unless you have planned it weeks or months ahead. And you have to plan the writing of that, the printing, and any illustrations and anything that goes with that. So there's an enormous amount of planning that has to be done here. Every step should be planned, and at the same time you can figure out about what each step is going to cost you, and you will have both an action plan and a cash flow plan that goes with this whole process. And that's an important part of what you're doing.
So before you send out any product releases, you should have a written plan that covers every step, all the details, including the photo session, even the kind of envelopes, the follow-up calls, making sure that enough units are available for testing by all of the publications, that enough sales literature is available, and there should be a complete cost and cash flow estimate. And before you mail out the product release and photographs, ask yourself this: have I made it really, that is really easy, for the editor?
The more work you can do for the editor, the better your releases are going to be. Because editors are like you and me, they're lazy. And they want to do the least amount of work possible. So if you send in copy that has to be edited, you may lose it. If you send in copy that is single-spaced, it may not get very far. If you send in copy that doesn't have the name and address and phone number of somebody to call about the product, if you don't send in good pictures, if you do any of those things, it's wastebasket. You wouldn't invite somebody in off the street to do your engineering for you. And the same thing with marketing. And marketing can be a lot more important than engineering, Good heavens, I can think of so many first-rate products that have bitten the dust because of poor marketing, and I'm sure you can think of a lot of very mediocre products that have done spectacularly due to outstanding marketing. So the marketing is of critical importance. Now you're going to be dealing with a number of magazines, and you have to remember that the editors of these magazines hate each other, and that they feel that each other magazine is unprincipled. Well, competitors, by definition, feel that their other companies are unprincipled. No magazine editor wants to feel that he's second-rate. So it's important to work closely with these editors on getting the reviews and getting them equipment as early as possible. I know I hate it when a despised competitor gets the equipment first, and obviously then has a lead of a month at least on getting the review printed. There's nothing that discourages me more or irritates me more than to call up a manufacturer and say, you know, where's that equipment you promised? Oh, well, we'll have that sent from Brand X magazine just as soon as they're through with it. Great. You can imagine what kind of a review we're going to give that when we get that much consideration from the manufacturer. One of the things that I really love as an editor is when I talk to a manufacturer about a new product to review, and he says, gosh, I can't send you one right now. My dealers are just clamoring so that I have to send them the units and I haven't got any spare. Well, phooey on you. If I'm going to wait 6 months to get a product to review, it's not a new product anymore. And I'm in the business of news, not in the business of putting out old news. So part of your business plan right up front should be to make sure that you've got some units to send out to the key magazines in your field for review so that they have them. When you send me a piece of equipment to be tested as editor, I expect that equipment to work. For heaven's sakes, at least take it out of the box and plug it in and make sure that it works before you send it in to be tested and to be reviewed by a magazine. That seems like common sense, and yet many times I've received equipment, opened it up, plugged it in, and had it not work. And it wasn't anything that happened in the mail. This was direct from the factory. They had never checked it out. Now, this is not going to help you with my magazine because you have blown my schedule. You've made it so that I no longer can get that review into the issue that I expected. And it's going to throw everything out of kilter, and other tests that I plan to do are going to be thrown out of schedule. And you caused me a lot of trouble. And you can bet that if there's some negatives that come in when the test is eventually done, that they're not going to get blue penciled at my editorial desk. So, oh, one other thing. When I say test it, I mean just test it. I don't mean prepare this specially for the magazine, because the readers are quickly going to figure out that something's wrong if they buy a unit off the shelf and it doesn't work the way the one that was tested in the magazine worked. They know something's wrong, and they're going to complain, and they're going to complain a lot, and that's going to get into the letters to the editor. And even if you try to correct that later, the correction will never catch up with the original complaint. So make sure that I get a normal unit to test, not something specially made just for me, okay?
So treat all magazines equally. Play no favorites. Have enough units for testing and make sure they work, but never specially prepare a unit. And finally, here's a question. Should you lend the review sample to the magazine, or should you give it to them?
There's always a question in the mind of manufacturers as what are the standards, or what are the practices as far as editors keeping equipment. Well, the general rule is that if it's under $250 in value, let them keep it. Let them hold on to it. It's going to be bunged up anyway. If it's more than that, it's probably worthwhile having it returned, and maybe you can refurbish it and sell it. Next, we want to make sure that when those product reviews are done, that we have the best possible illustrations. Because when someone's looking through a magazine, they're going to scan, and you only have a fraction of a second to really grab their attention. And this is where your illustrations and the captions for those illustrations make such a big difference. So work with the review writer to get the best possible illustrations, whether it be drawings or photographs or girls holding the product, whatever it is. That is important as far as getting the product review read, and that is enormously important as far as your sales are concerned. Once you have a product review or a new product release, you want to write to the publication and get official written permission to reprint that. Many magazines will reprint it for you at a very reasonable price, but get it reprinted and make sure that those reprints go to your salespeople, your representatives. You might send them to your dealers, and it doesn't hurt to send them to your suppliers and even to your investors to let them know how well you're doing. So get reprints and get them out there and use them. The next question has to do with advertising. Now, how much advertising should you do? Well, you know that you have to do some advertising if you're going to keep the magazines interested in running your new products releases and new products reviews. And you can look at it from the viewpoint of another manufacturer. He's going to get all upset if he sees him paying for advertising every month and you getting free product releases and product reviews in the magazine at his expense. And you wouldn't like that either. Now, you don't have to spend a fortune. You don't have to run 2, 4, 5 pages a month in the magazine. What you do is figure out what is a comfortable advertising expense for you and run a consistent ad in there. And consistency is very important because it builds awareness of your company, product awareness. And that's what you want. You want people to think of your product when they're interested in that particular thing. And a consistent small ad is vastly superior to a great big splash only occasionally. Let's see, that about covers it. I guess I should mention the envelope one more time, just to remind you. The envelope should stand out. Maybe a particular color or size will do it. You don't want to use the ordinary brown envelope. Editors get hundreds or thousands of these. And for goodness sakes, don't use those confounded envelopes that you can't open, that can't be torn. In the envelope, please don't use the usual fuzzy pictures, and don't let anybody put a staple right through the middle of the picture of your product when they're stapling the package together. That happens more often than you might think.
Okay, to summarize, concentrate on marketing. Hire a staff writer. Give him a quiet place to work. Have him write copy that stresses benefits and avoids hyperbole. Double space all copy. Include a name and phone number at the top. Hire a professional product photographer. Send out only perfect photos. Send black and white and color. Ask if the magazine will use the color photo if you pay for the color separation negatives, and if you may have the negatives after they use them. Make friends with the person who is reviewing the product. Make regular follow-up calls. Listen to the reviewer's suggestions. Make a written plan. Have all follow-up material ready to go before the release is sent out. Have enough units available for testing. Play no favorites among the publishers. Reviewers get units before dealers do, always. Make sure the sample you send out works, but never specially prepare it. Any product under $250, kiss it goodbye. Get written permission from the magazines to use the reviews. Send reprints to sales, suppliers, investors. And advertise with all the magazines you send releases to. A moderate or small ad carried regularly is better than a now and then expensive splash.
I've got 2 videos that you'll need to know about. One is on how to double your sales by effective use of your reader's service coupons. Now, I happen to know that you're sending out absolute junk right now, and I'm really disappointed in what I've seen. The other is on how to advertise. Now, thousands of firms have spent billions of dollars trying to learn how to advertise and trying every conceivable way of doing it. I have a video that'll explain how you can go ahead and do this, and it will certainly be of help in you working with your agency and doing the job yourself. Well, there you have it. Now, I hope that you'll go my route and knock the socks off your competitors with sales. I realize that you're probably going to fight a bit on getting a writer. Almost everyone does. But if you go the way that I have recommended, you're going to find that your PR releases are superb and that the sales go zooming. So be true blue and get that writer and get those sales going, and let's see you get very, very rich. Believe me, the problems of being rich are greatly, greatly exaggerated.